In this lesson, you'll learn about shape tools and keyboard shortcuts to use when you're creating them, how to customize them, and so on. So if you look on the tools panel, there's a rectangle tool. If you click and hold onto it, there's a couple other tools on here. I don't know many people who use the flare tool, but the other ones can be pretty useful when you're creating logos or different shapes, infographics, and so on. So if you select the rectangle tool and just click and drag out here on the artboard, if you hold shift, you can make a perfect square. All right, if you don't, then you can make a rectangle that's either wider or taller. And you'll notice right here down at the bottom, just like in InDesign, we have a fill and a stroke. So basically the color inside the shape and then the border. So if we have a stroke that's colored here, you can double click on it and choose a custom color. And you can also stylize it up here. Up at the top, you can make it thicker and you can make a specific style. And you can click on the side and there's other styles there that correlate with the brushes. And so once you've drawn it out, you can use the black arrow and move it around, of course. And you can also click and drag the edge to resize it. And you can hold shift at that point to maintain the original proportion of the shape when you're resizing it. And you can also choose the white direct selection tool and click and drag and really customize it. This can be helpful when we're creating logos or custom shapes. If you click and hold onto the rectangle tool, there's another one called the rounded rectangle tool. And so if you click and drag that out, and you'll notice right here these little circles, if you click and drag, it will adjust the angle of the rounded corners. And you can click and drag it all the way until it's just completely round on the edges. Now if this was a perfect square like this, and then we did that same thing, let me draw one here, holding shift, and click and drag this in, it will become a circle, like a complete circle, like so. Now we can do that with the rectangle tool as well though. So if I draw with the rectangle tool, and then it also has these options here. Now what if you want this to just have one side rounded or maybe straight? What you can do is click on shape up on the control panel, and you'll notice if this is linked, then if I adjust one, it adjusts all of them. So if I unlink that, then you can really adjust the corners there and customize them each at a time. So you can have some that are more rounded than others for a custom shape for an infographic or illustration, logo, and so on. And if you click and go onto the ellipse tool, you can create these ellipses. You can also hold shift, just like with the rectangle tool, you hold shift, it'll be a perfect square. If you hold shift on the ellipse tool, it'll create a perfect circle. And if you hold down Alt with these, or Option on the Mac, it will click and drag from the center. And then if you hold shift, it'll be a perfect circle. So if you want to click and drag from the edge, like so, don't hold Alt, just hold down shift for a perfect circle. But if you want to draw from the center, hold down Alt or Option on the Mac, Alt on the PC, and you can draw from the center. Now the polygon tool, if you click and drag that out, it really depends on what you drew last time with the shape. But see how it's changing? That's because I'm pressing the up and down arrows on the keyboard. So if you press the down keyboard a bunch of times, it will just create this rectangle. And if I hold shift, it will hold it to just a 90-degree angle there, a flat angle. And I click and drag again and press up, it'll create this kind of diamond or square, and then a pentagon, hexagon, octagon, and so on. And if I hold the up, it eventually almost looks like a circle, but it's not. It's just a polygon with a bunch of sides. You can also click and hold and go to the star tool, and so by default it'll look like this with 5 points. And if you hold shift, it'll be level like that. If you're drawing one out though and press the down arrow, just like the polygon tool, you can create different shapes. So this one's more of a diamond. And if you press up, you can have kind of these bursts that you see sometimes in advertisements. When I worked at a newspaper laying out advertisements, we would use this on like car dealership ads, for example. And we would add a fill, so you could flip that and add a fill instead of a stroke. And with all these, of course, we can use the direct selection tool and select a anchor point after the fact, as well as the path, and really customize them more. And you can use the black arrow and the selection tool and move it around, and also rotate it by just hovering off the edge. You can also add the style to these. So up here we've got different brush strokes for the stroke there, and you can also add a variable width if you want, and then adjust the fill and the stroke up here and not just down at the bottom of the tools panel. You can adjust the opacity and also the style. So if you click on that, you can add style to some of these. If you click this right here, you can open graphic styles. There's a bunch of other ones that are available. So you can load those up and apply specific ones that we want to add in there. If you go to the transform panel up at the right hand side of the control panel, you can add a couple effects here like shearing, and there's also rotating, which you can manually rotate here with a number instead of just using the selection tool. You can also adjust the size and the placement of the shapes by using the transform option up here. The shape tools can be pretty useful when you're creating logos and illustrations. I hope you learned a lot in this lesson, and I will see you in the next one.